Good Erev Shabbos, Parshas Mishpatim, my birthday Parsha. I always had a problem with it actually because it's very dry. It seems that way, at least. It's got its moments too, when it describes part of the giving of the Torah and the glory of all that. But most of it is very strict laws. Good Erev Shabbos, thanks for coming. Strict laws. And I always was put off. What am I going to do with this? How am I going to relate to my birthday every year when it's talking about the strictest laws? And look at my Hayom Yom entry for my birthday on Zach Shvat is all about having no benefit from the world. And how I said that the Rebbe went like, okay, that was his birthday idea. That's the starting point. But ultimately, it's meant to be not a burden. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, if you're going to wish me well, I'm going to say L'chaim to you in the Canadian fashion. You can't get more Canadian than that, eh? It's going to be a bit frothy for a minute, so maybe you'll have to give me like a minute or so. But thank you for wishing me happy birthday. So, someone just told me that they're not seeing the video. It's not working. Maybe, is anyone having trouble seeing me? Hello? Okay, what can I do? So there was definitely a progression in the Rebbe's thinking from a acceptance of a mission, which starts with Kabbalah Sel, receiving the yoke of heaven, accepting the mission, bittul, not having any self-interest at all. But it leads up to a place that's like almost the opposite. One out of pure, thanks for coming. The next for bringing, what about now? What's coming up next? It's Purim. Oh my goodness, are we going to make a Purim for bringing? Oh my goodness. That is going to be crazy. My friend used to make fun of me. He used to say in our band before we played, after I became religious, thank you, Chaim, he says, please God, may we rock. Happy birthday. I guess I can't wish everyone. I could wish you a bracha, because on your birthday, your mazel is supposed to be stronger and you could bless people. So I bless everyone that comes to, I don't know, I hope we all help each other, inspire each other. That's all I really care about. Chaim. I have a million Marish Chaira stories to tell, but I don't really want to do that to my Shabbos. So I hope I don't go there. I hope I'm busy enough and more positive things, because I had a really rough week. Today was really... Okay, I'm going to try and fight it. So ultimately, it's about not Kabbalah Sel. Ultimately, it's about only wanting to do more because you're just completely driven towards it, rather than, even though I know I'm not so great, I'm still going to try and be pretty good. That is not the message for today, not at all. The Rebbe says something here that blows my mind completely. Last night when I was learning it, I don't know if it affected me quite as much the first time I saw it, and then I thought about it, what the Rebbe is saying here. He's talking about covering your head. Now let me tell you, as a man, you have tremendous anxiety, especially if you are a gymnast, probably tremendous anxiety if your yarmulke falls off your head. The Rebbe says that it's Einoi Chamor Kol Kach, Kemoi Kisu Yachelek Atachtain. There's different degrees of acceptability for revealing part of your body. You cover your head, right? There's some coverage on my head. It's considered part of the laws of tznius even. It's also a reminder that to be humble. Good Erev Shabbos. But the Rebbe is talking here in the Sikha. He's having a conversation with Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, the Sephardic chief rabbi equivalent of that. Rishon LeZion, I think they call it. Thanks for coming. So, he says covering your head isn't so strict. I wear a yarmulke. Thank you. L'chaim to you. L'chaim, that's a lot of l'chaim. Oh my goodness. I'm not driving anyways. L'chaim. So can you believe the same Rebbe who says a woman should find out if she feels that it's appropriate to go into a taxi or an Uber, I guess in these days, with a man? The same Rebbe is speaking here about Kisei Reish Eino Chamor Kol Kach. But why would the Rebbe even cite a leniency here? He's speaking to a very important, influential rabbi. Why would he cite this? And the answer to that question is much more interesting than a arbitrarily seeming law about what you have to cover and what you don't. It compares covering your head with covering your tail. And it was introduced by the idea of whether you can cover yourself with your own body. And the answer is you cannot, but it can be a hafsaka. It could, if you have to say a blessing, I don't know if I could take any visitors just yet. I have to get to know you a bit better because I get very confused sometimes if I don't feel like it's something that I can manage when I only have like 35 minutes. I'm used to having like an hour, a solid hour. But thank you for the offer. So he's comparing covering, wearing the Speedo bathing suit, the fig leaf, we're comparing that to covering your head. The context being, can you say a bracha with your arm like this, separating your heart from your lower part of your body? It's considered okay that you could do that if you don't have any clothes, I suppose. It's a different thing when you're saying a blessing, that the holiness that it descends onto you doesn't have a problem with your nakedness. It just wants you to make a difference between things of the heart and things of the body. So right now you're focusing on the heart, you're saying a blessing. We're going to make a separation, just at least to acknowledge that there is different. You have to have a certain mindset. You can't be frivolous when you're putting on tefillin, for example. So the Rebbe introduces the idea of the leniency in covering your head. Now remember, I've seen a picture of the Rebbe after it had been corrected to show that he was covering his head, because he wasn't, because it was a government-issued photo, the naturalization photograph, and apparently they didn't let him wear a yarmulke. But the Rebbe wasn't embarrassed about that. I don't know, maybe the Rebbe was once pictured signaling to whistle to his chassidim. And the Rebbe wasn't embarrassed about that. Now remember, we were speaking about a couple days ago about, I'm trying to rev this up a little bit. I don't have that much time, but I'm trying. The idea of a Hayras Shav. Avi Pollock, good to see you. L'chaim, my friend. The idea of what's called a Hayras Shav, which means a temporary transgression, in a sense. Not in the sense of doing a sin, but just sometimes having sensitivity work it out. Hirah, it's actually a legal term in Judaism that the rabbis can overturn laws in order to accommodate the needs of a specific time. As you can't uproot it. You're not saying I'm uprooting the mitzvah of bris milah or something like that. You can't say that. You could say if a time was great danger, maybe they would say, okay, we're not doing it now. Like, for example, our times we live in, do you have to daven with a minyan? I don't think you do. I think that's crazy to say you have to daven. Is it a mitzvah to not go to a minyan now? You could argue both ways, so it's left to debate. That debate is at the focus of what I want to touch on right now. The whole idea, Parshas Mishpatim, which we started with, is all about, thank you, L'chaim, good Erev Shabbos. Parshas Mishpatim is about using your mind to figure out the obvious. And that too is a godly thing. And the Rebbe takes it such a huge step further to say that the role of Mashiach is to introduce the logic of messianic way of thinking, which is basically direct the resources to incentivize celebrating your creator. Basically, that's what it is. So the idea of a Hirah Shah means that you don't have to feel so rigid. If my yarmulke falls off when I'm sleeping, though the Frierdiker Rebbe did say that that's what shows you a tamim. The Lubavitcher students are called tmimim. A tamim is someone who is very concerned to do things right. So even when he sleeps, he's wearing a yarmulke. So there's a lot of anxiety. That's an honest thing. There's a lot of anxiety to always have your head covered. But here the Rebbe tries to show you that it's sometimes the people of the generation, the majority, that reminds me of another really cool thing. The majority, though, determines what the people can handle. It's the people. It's all about the people. And the Rebbe uses the term that they are victorious over the Jewish court because of their sensitivity to their way that they react to the Rabbinic, the old school. Now, I have to switch the topic a little bit for a second because I just cannot forget to tell you this. Thank you, L'chaim. Chaim. The Rebbe speaks about something so fascinating here, that in the times of Mashiach, you are going to have two systems of thought. One of them is going to be the old school, and I finally found my source. Why am I calling rabbis old school? The Rebbe is my source, and maybe I'll show it to you inside. And I'm just telling you the idea right now. The Rebbe says if you have two Beis Dins, one is the new Beis Din of the Yemais Mashiach versus the previous ways of thinking. Even though there might have been a majority amongst the old school, you rule according to the new rabbis of the times of Mashiach. That is what the Rebbe says here. And wow, finally I was vindicated word for word. And yes, I'm going to translate this, so I'll give it to you. Please, God. And it all comes from one thing. It's embodied in Joshua, Yeshua. Hey, good Shabbos, my distant cousin. Good to see you. And nice to welcome you to the family, L'chaim. Another Merker. L'chaim. So, think about it. I should read that. Should I start with that? I was talking about yarmulkes. Here we go. Unbelievable. I have to read you these words right now. There is room for changes in laws of Torah that were established, the ruling according to the majority opinion in the Beis Din HaGadol. Everything in Torah law has to do with debate, convincing, and voting. It's a democratic republic, I would suppose, in sorts. You have these representatives that represent the people who know Torah. It's obvious who knows Torah more than the next guy. It's always obvious to people when they converse. So the elite are meant to assume the authority, and they have official positions, and they have each one has a place, but they all knew where to sit. They didn't need name tags in their seats. So you go according to majority opinion. Al pidas harayv shel based in agadol should be mais Mashiach. But in the times of Mashiach, you're going to go according to the based in, not if it was this I don't want to say that because this is, but in the previous generation, or the one before that, or in the times of King David for that matter. Rather, you go according to the based in that will exist in the times of Mashiach. And the Rebbe tells you what it means to be a Rav in our times. He tells you what to do. It's really cool, and I hope that anyone merits to actually hold the term a rabbi in our times, according to what the Rebbe defines it. L'chaim, welcome. L'chaim. So the Rebbe says, watch this. You're supposed to listen to the judge that is in those days. You are only obligated to follow the based in of your generation, not the one from the one before. And if this new based in that exists in a new era, the days of Mashiach, if they have a different opinion than the majority of people from the old school, the Rebbe calls it Deris Shalif Nezah. He calls it based in Hagadol Shebaderis Shalif Nezah. The great court in the preceding generations. So you're going to have a new body of rabbinic authority. Tikvu halacha kedas arrived based in Hagadol Shebi'imois HaMashiach. So it doesn't matter if there's a majority. There could be 10 people in, well, I suppose you would have 71. Welcome. Chaim and good Erev Shabbos. So I thought that was stunning. To say that it doesn't suffice, rabbis of previous generations, once you've established the ruling authority in the times of Mashiach, the majority that exists in a different generational mentality is not relevant anymore. It doesn't say that the Rebbe says here they battle it out. It just says ignore that majority. That is stunning. I have no other word for that. Now, why is this important to us? Let's say you're not a big paskening rabbi. Maybe you're not that kind of guy. What does that have to do with you? Because it's all about you. What is the rabbis of the times of Mashiach going to paskin? Look what the Rebbe says here. This goes back to wearing the yarmulke. Is it so important? Can you take off your yarmulke? They wouldn't let me put a picture in my magazine if I didn't actually, not enough that I'm wearing yarmulke and 16 pairs of tzitzis under my shirt. It was not enough. I had to show. Should I also wear a mask? I have to do certain things to qualify myself. It is so silly. It's so silly. Oh my goodness. Okay. Here we're talking about if your yarmulke falls off, don't worry so much. Why? Because there were whole generations of Jews, religious, holy Jews, who did not wear a yarmulke all the time. That's what the Rebbe says here. So you cannot look down on somebody because they don't wear a yarmulke. Let them cover their lower part of their body, okay? They don't know what they're talking about. Avram Sheps, Chaim. Watch this. This is what the Rebbe tells Rabbi Eliyahu, Mordechai Eliyahu. He says, it's not as important to cover your head as it is your tail. Because you know what? In the times of the Talmud, the greatest sages, every rabbi that's mentioned in the Talmud, the Talmudic sages called Tanoim and Amoraim, each one of them had the power to resurrect the dead, they say. I don't know exactly what it means. Shereiv ha'am hayu regilim leilech lifamim lepamim harbe begilui reish. Because the majority of the people were accustomed to often go about without covering their head. Why? Why did they do that? Watch and understand what a Beis Din is today and who the Beis Din cares about today. It's not all about how from they could be and how to prove that their extra is better than someone else. I mean, that's important, actually. I actually do want the best extra. For sure I do. But you sort of get the point. Now I confused everyone. When it comes to what I eat, I don't know. I want the best texture. Why not? When it comes to what I tell somebody else to eat, come on. Try and understand the difference here. So what about the majority of people that weren't wearing yarmulkes in the times of the Talmud? The greatness of those sages is the way they spoke. If you admire a haiku because you pack a lot of ideas into a few words, like 5-10 words, they were able to communicate like that, not only amongst themselves, but with the kings of the time, as they record conversations. And okay, another thing I just want to mention, the previous Lubavitch Rebbe wrote a lot of stories of the righteous people, the tzaddikim, and I think he speaks about Reb Baruch, I think it was the Alter Rebbe's father, though I'm not 100% sure, that it's thank you, L'chaim. It gives you verbatim their thoughts. And I was reading like pages and pages of this thing, and then I just realized they're giving me the thoughts of a tzaddik. They're having verbatim what they're thinking. The Frierdiker Rebbe had a tradition that this is what he would thought. So that means L'chaim, the original L'chaim. The original person had thoughts, and he told somebody about it, who told somebody else, and it's in a legitimate tradition passed from one master in Chassidus to another. So check that out when you have time. I don't have time for that anymore. You're supposed to read it before you go to bed. If I get finished Shmais, we're doing good. But if you're one of those people that have to de-rev, read, what's it called? Likutei Diburim. They have it in English. It's beautiful. It's a bit heavy still, but a lot of stories. Very cool one about the Berditcher Rebbe when the guy who he thought he points his gun at him and it doesn't work. Then he points it at his precious dog and he shoots. It's a great story. He became a Baal Tshuva on the spot. It's a really cool story. Anyways, remember what we're going back to what the Rebbe is telling Rebbe Mordechai Eliyahu. He's telling him, covering your head, you know what? In the times of the Shas, the majority of people didn't even cover their head. V'davka b'deiros achronim, it's just in our recent times, b'zman habeis yosef v'ramah, shenischadash chaim erayinin t'chisui haraish, that they decided to introduce the observance of the idea of covering your head as much as you can, mitzad midas chassidus. But it was intended to be, if you want to be really holy, do that. So to look down at somebody else who doesn't wear one is completely absurd. Because even in our times, it's just to add extra piety. So someone who doesn't do it, to look down on them, just people should look in the mirror more, I think. So the Rebbe says as his thought, he introduces his innovative thought by saying Yesh Leimar. He says Yesh Leimar, L'chaim, thank you. L'chaim, that's 2. His innovative thought here, that in those times, covering your head was a type of decree that's not acceptable. People could not do it. But times changed. Now, I'm not saying that times are still very favorable of wearing a yarmulke. I know in France it's not so easy. So don't be the judge of anyone else. Okay? Am I lecturing too much? I just find that so many people lecture people that I have to lecture you, not to that they shouldn't be lecturing. Does that make any sense? And the Rebbe keeps going back to the same theme. You know what's higher? The Jew himself is higher than the laws that govern him. It's the precious. My birthday for bringing a theme. The idea of a baby doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have even a name. It's an it for 7 days. So here we see again how a Jew is higher than the laws that govern him, as they spoke about earlier. I spoke about a few classes. That when a Jewish court decrees something, it becomes the law of Torah. And afterwards, after the rabbi said this, and the whole Beis Din was so gung-ho about invoking new restrictions on people as if they don't have enough to worry about as it is. So they decided that they have to be stricter. But people couldn't do it. They didn't do it. Batzla, hagzeira, the decree, which is an ominous term here. I'll prove it later, maybe. The decree, this ominous thing that's telling you that you have to be this additional anxiety on you. It wasn't enough that the Torah forbade you. Now I'm going to make things a little bit more stringent. So if the people can't do it, the gzeira is gone. Hainu, the decree is no more. Hainu, meaning sherevet tzibor menatseach es habeis din, because the people. I have to pour some beer for the people. It's all about the people. It's all about the people. The people, the Rebbe says, are victorious they prevail over the Jewish court. I'm talking about the Jewish people, what their sensitivities, what they're capable of, what they're not. That is supposed to be reflective by the rabbis. If they do not do that, they are not the rabbis of the time. Batzla hagzeira. The decrees that they issue are not binding. Look at those agunas. Rahman al-Atzlan, we have agunas in our times. In our times where you have freedom in the most barbaric lands before they were settled and civilized, the most barbaric lands, you could get scalped for I don't know what, crossing the wrong forest. It could be a time where you could have agunas. After all of this progression and development of it, and the sensitivity for humanity, and we shouldn't be like the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, who preceded our times by not that much time ago. And now we're going to allow for agunas. The Rebbe speaks about women who people whose spouses would not let them free, which he quotes often, the Rambam that says, we know a person wants to do God's will. The Rebbe says this about the Rambam, because when the guy has to give a consensual divorce, he's compelled to do it. And it's still considered consensual. Why? Because that's what he was supposed to do, be a mensch. Don't hush people in shul. It's so ridiculous. I said, if it was the Rav, would you hush the Rav? Would you do that? So what's the difference between another person? If it's not dignified to do that to a rabbi, why is it dignified to do it to somebody else? And who happens also to probably have a similar degree. And afterwards it's seen that this decree, sorry, I just jumped in there. I just wanted to introduce this idea of this phrase, batla hagzeira, that the decree is nullified, is ominous in the sense that how many Baal Shem Tov stories, the simple Jew that cockle-doodle-doo is in the back of the shul, and that's with so much sincerity that God decided that the evil decree, that the horrible the landowner, the landlord was going to throw them in a pit, You'll never see them again. And they'll do that to like a lot of the people at the time. So therefore, this guy nullifies the decree. The expression used there, there's many, many stories like that. Okay? Someone did something and it inspired God to nullify the evil decree against the Jewish people, and we were all saved. So the same expression is used here, batla hagzeira. If the rabbis made a decree, maybe they did it with the good intentions. I would say, don't be a rabbi for the people if you don't know the people. No way. It makes absolutely no sense. A mean rabbi who's ruling, like the mean nanny, there's an incredible... Okay, I'm not going to go there. It makes no sense because they're not actually doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to reflect the sensitivity of the majority of people at the time. If you're in a city which happens to be ruled mostly by, not ruled, I mean, the population's comprised, l'chaim, mostly of Balei Tshuva, okay? Mostly, like I would say 80, 90% Balei Tshuva. I was here before. The community was the shul was a mobile, what are they called? You put a mobile in the field and there's grass around it. And that was your shul. Okay? There was nobody here. In Chabad, I'm talking about. And then everyone was Balei Tshuvas. That community is not reflected by the rabbis, at least in the city that I live in. That is a disastrous situation. That the people are so meek that they don't say, you know what? We can't live by these standards. Give us standards that make sense to us now. And don't hang up on me and tell me I'm not going to have a rabbinical debate with you. If we don't have the sensitivity to talk to someone, we call them 5 minutes before Shabbos is on, so we specifically cannot get into a long debate with the guy. How barbaric is that? It's like, okay, told you, I promised I wasn't going to get negative. And then he says, Menatzeach as a Beis Din. It is victory over the Beis Din because of the people. And then the Rebbe just finds, what should they be doing then? If they shouldn't be telling the people not to do things that they need to do, and there's no reason to add extra stringency in that case, in fact, Batla Gezerah, as the Rebbe says, it's nullified. What should they be doing then? This is also spectacular. This is... First, before the Rebbe says this, Rav Eliyahu introduces the idea that if people couldn't handle it, it nullified it from the outset. It's like all the people that when you change the law, now marijuana is legal, so all the people that are thrown in jail for 10 years for it, now they're not evil anymore, so you could let them out. But you should probably reimburse them for all their suffering for that, goodness gracious. But here, this rabbi's pointing out that they didn't do anything wrong from the start, which is fascinating. So this rabbi is playing a match against the Rebbe that is beautiful, because they're not arguing. They're inspiring each other. Each one is trying, and the Rebbe basically says, Paskin now, the Mashiach's here. And it's gorgeous. I don't think we're going to have time for it. We only have a little bit more time. And I know you're writing things, and I want to get to what you're saying. Maybe I should... I don't want to miss out on saying at least this part here, because then I'll need a break after. I have to say with the proper excitement, l'chaim. So the Rebbe says, he wrote saying, Shebekarav Mamish Yishchashiv HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'achlatas HaTzibur Shein Yichon Lispel Xeris HaGalus. He likens all of these decrees upon the Jewish people, starting with the idea of a yarmulke. That's like essential, and the Rebbe is very big on children wearing yarmulkes from a young age, and even when they're sleeping. So it's not like we don't love the mitzvah of yarmulke. We do, but it's a way of finding merit in so many people, and how are we supposed to relate to them? If you see a Jew without a yarmulke, and you're saying Torah, let's say, so you think you're so holy that he's not allowed to hear it because he's not wearing a yarmulke, don't be so religious on his expense. That's not the right way you should relate to the person. Okay, so I just want to read this, and then I'll try and read all your nice comments. Maybe they're not nice. Sometimes you get not nice comments. It's pretty rare here. It's less rare right on the streets. So the Rebbe likens those type of decrees that are not with times. And I want this to resonate with the idea of a new Beis Din in the times of Mashiach, the days of Mashiach. It's going to have a high court that can overrule even a majority from the old school Beis Din. I read it to you. I'm going to translate that. I'll take pictures of it and selfies with it. So the Rebbe likens this to how we cannot handle anymore. 2,000 years of exile is much more than we bargained for. What did you do already to deserve it? 2,000 years of your heritage and your dynasty totally dismantled and thrashed across the world. How long? You know what the previous exile was? 70 years, and that was a horrible, horrible time. And 2,000 years later, what about us? Are we supposed to be these people that just keep on taking it? Someone told me I'm so angry. Do I look like an angry person? I'm so angry. If people weren't rude to me, I wouldn't be angry with them. Very simple. Don't be rude. Treat people like everyone's a rabbi, okay? Pretend that I'm a rabbi and don't shush me when I'm. It's so stupid. Okay, so the Rebbe says, because then he gives an instruction of what. Thank you. I'm gonna have to open another beer for you. Thank you for that. You can see it's getting exciting here. It's very Erev Shabbosy. What's candlelighting? 5:35 or 5:25? Maybe it's 5:35, and I'm good for another 15 minutes. Can someone just? I think that was what the situation is. So, first let's say l'chaim. With a frothy l'chaim. At this point, it's got to get a little frothy right before Shabbos. I think I grew a mustache. So, the Rebbe defines what then is the role of rabbis today. Is it to be big scholars and trying to come up with another way to tell other people that they're not as good as him? 5:26 is candlelighting? It's for 5 minutes. Goodness gracious. Thank you, though. Appreciate that. So, the Rebbe gives instructions. What is the Beis Din supposed to do then? We're not supposed to be insensitive to our people. In fact, the people should be victorious over us. Especially as this is a ruling of the Torah. As the rabbis paskin. So what are the rabbis paskining? What are they ruling? Shikvar kolokol akitzin. And the Rebbe comes back to the same idea he spoke about earlier, that the rabbi's role is to pronounce that all the end time limits for our exile have been completed. And already the time of the true and complete redemption has arrived. And since must be fulfilled, the prophecy of Ashiva Sheftayach B'Rishayna, I will return your judges like it was in former times when we had representatives, rabbis of the people, Sheyachsar v'yamud Beis Din Hagadol b'lishkas hagazos, that we shall have our Jewish court in the Holy Temple. Yishalu v'yisvaru atzlam kol yam shnishar b'safach, and they will clarify everything that was doubtful. Is it right to yell at the shishta guy when no one's davening Shemona Esrei? V'yikablu apsak din take you from yad, and immediately the decree will be accepted. And the Rebbe speaks about the importance of debate and discussion. Okay, that's the key. If If you want to be sensitive, communicate with each other. Don't shut people off. Don't stonewall people. 5:37, we have 2 shitas. 5:36. I think if we have till 5:37, I think those who voted for 5:26 should clarify, because I could stay on then for another 12 minutes or so. That would be really cool, no? This is when l'chaims get much bigger. They get much bigger right before Shabbos, don't they? Is that the way it happens in your house? Or is it more setting table seatings? You could hear my son Aaron in the background. He's rocking this place. He's the heart of this family. He is the heart, my Aaron, my 3rd son. You could hear him, can't you? He's just happy to his life. He's excited about life. I mean, there are pressures on him that he's got to do this, and this, and like he has to go through this school, and everyone's telling him what to do. I don't have to tell my children. I find it funny. The idea that you have to tell your children that they shouldn't want to be a bum. I find that so funny when it's the last thing in the world that they would want. So why do you have to reinforce things that they already have? To do that is asking for problems. 5:38. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit later. But someone liked the 5:26. I see that. What are you guys in Newfoundland? There's like a half-hour difference in Newfoundland. I think we have people that are right on the border of Newfoundland, and more on the what's the other province? I guess Quebec. Beside that, no, is it Quebec? We got a lot of votes for 5:38. I'm going to stay on here. You know, you're allowed to go. If you're doing a mitzvah, you're allowed to go even close to the 18 minutes. My latitude and longitude. I'm in Toronto. If that's the cool way to ask if I'm in where city I'm in Toronto. I put that on my thing recently. Yeah. I think why not tell people what city I'm in? What are they going to do? Like go knocking on doors looking for me? Tzemach, I got to interview you. Tzemach, come. Tzemach! Why don't they ever come to be interviewed? If I was a kid, I would think the coolest thing in the world to be is a YouTube, whatever they call them. YouTuber. I can't figure out YouTube because I'm not interested in seeing anyone else's videos. So I have no reason to be there. I like that people put inspiring messages on Facebook. I'm not embarrassed to be on Facebook. I think people are really weird. I'm sorry. I haven't met too many people that are normal. Have you? Chaim, let's say a big l'chaim. That all our meshigasin should be for something that's at least holy, l'chaim. And that doesn't mean telling someone else he's got to wear yarmulke if he talks to you. Who are you that he has to wear yarmulke to? Feels comfortable to wear a yarmulke. If he has to be a pious dude like you are, I love wearing a yarmulke, but I know there's an anxiety I have. Like if I'm in the car and like zonking out on the side of the road, going 5 hours or something, right? And my yarmulke falls off, that will bother me. And I think that's unfair that people inculcated me to such a degree. I mean, what's the point of making people have anxiety so that they can't function? Be sensitive to people and try and be humane. That is the rabbis of the times of Mashiach. If someone wants proofs, I can give them proofs. I feel like I already have, though. Maybe it's time for a few haikus. Did we set enough terror that we can warrant a little bit of haiku? I promised that I'd read what you guys are writing, so let's do that first. If I have to, I have another 9 minutes. That's pretty cool. So let me just read from the start, okay? Thanks every time. Rabbi, this very refreshing. A much needed teaching and enlightenment. You holded. Spelled weirdly. L'chaim. You know what? Even retroactively, I'm going to l'chaim you. Towards right before Shabbos, we got it. I decided how many beers would be like. Okay, I'm not gonna be a bad example for my children. I agree. This is beautiful, Sean. Thank you, Sean. Kim Merker. What a great name you have. The role of the rabbi at the time of Mashiach and how the rules will change in part. The newer teachings and those Seymours don't work with Rabbi Baruch. I'm sorry, they just don't work. I could. Oh, there we go. The newer teachings and those teaching it will have more weight than the prior rabbinate. It actually sounds like an entire shift of perspective, an entire shift. And there, I've cited many examples. The Rebbe says the future tzaddikim are the Baal Tshuvas. That's what the Rebbe says there. I know my Rabbi Greenberg. I'm just trying to think his first name. I can't. We never call our rabbis by their first name, so I can't even think of it right now. Rabbi Greenberg. I don't even remember what I was going to say in his name now. That means I have to finish this Canuck Pale Ale. Well, right, the closer I get to Shabbos, the more viewers we get. I think we have 7 minutes. Oh, what was Rabbi Greenberg saying? I can't remember. The role of the rabbi at the time of Mashiach and how the rules will change, in part, the newer teaching, and those teaching it will have more weight than the prior rabbinate. So, yeah, it even sounds like, a whole shift of and I love how the Rebbe connects it with the sensitivity of the people. That is what I find totally fascinating, because if it was like defer to some rabbis and do what these new rabbis said, I wouldn't think that that's very cool. But the fact that the Rebbe says that the people should be menatzeach, victorious over the Beis Din, the Beis Din is the people. If the rabbis don't get that, I don't know who's hiring them. The rabbis are the people. But you have to be rabbi. If you wanted to give it conservative as opposed to Orthodox, that's a problem, because you're denying some things that you don't have a reason to not listen to certain things. And I'm just trying to think, because I could think of specific examples. Because I spoke to a conservative rabbi not too long ago, and he told me he had to marry, for example, same-sex couples. And what do? That is a question. That's why I will not be that rabbi. I can't make that. I would actually, you know what I would do? This is what I would do. I could be the rabbi. I take it back. I could be the rabbi. I would say, this is everything I could possibly find on this topic. You help me find a way. I will do anything to interpret this in a way that makes it that you'll be able to have a normal life. And if they and I can debate it out, figure it out, then I'll paskin. But if I'm met with a law from the Shulchan Aruch and a law from here and a law from there, and I just don't see any way, then I can't be that rabbi and tell people that they can't be themselves. I just won't ask for that. Don't give me the job. If you want me to be a rabbi, I want to be sensitive to the people, right? So I'll look up the halacha with you, and you tell me. If you don't believe in it, then okay, so you don't need a rabbi, right? If you need a rabbi, I will be the rabbi. I don't spend time learning halacha, because there's other people that do that. There's enough people that do that. 95% of people focus on halacha, probably. You have to know what to do. Who in the world is an expert on Tafshin and Beis? Who? Those people, l'chaim to you all, because I think you're on the right path. You got to take the last things the Rebbe said, and everything else is interpreted through that. will stay to that approach. It makes sense. It's based on halacha even. I mean to say that halachas are ruled according to the last thing that the rabbi wrote. So how much more so when we're talking about all the power you need to propel you forward towards an entirely new state of mind. The state of mind of Geula, where you have no suffering and you welcome challenge because you want to ride on top of that wave too. I mean, the true surfers, and I don't know, I think I was a windsurfer, so I know a little bit about surfing, but the waves I had a problem with. I never figured out waves yet. I was more into the wind. I would even do head dips. It was glorious. I loved it. But waves, when I was in an ocean, I do it on a lake mostly. When I went to Turks and Caicos one time on the ocean, and these huge waves, I didn't know what to do. And I was an instructor for windsurfing. I didn't know what to do, L'chaim. I got 3 minutes. I was going strong with something. It's probably about the people. Oh, I have to read more of these things before I go. Shabbat Shalom, and I'll watch the rest tomorrow night. Thanks. L'chaim wants more from me. Okay. Oh my goodness. I have to open the Stella now. We have a few minutes to take care of the Stella. I'm going to read you what you're writing. Trust me. I'm trying my best here. It's too frothy, so you're going to have to wait a second. Rabbi, I'm laughing. Where have you been? We need this type of straight talking without synagogue political correctness. Oh, I hate that now. You know what? I can't even, it's hard for me to watch some of my favorite rabbis now because I just think they're too serious, chill out a bit. And the Seymour is not working. Seriously, I'm pressing it from every angle. I'm sorry, guys. No Seymours with me. How do you feel about Joe Biden as president? His heart is in the hands of God. That's what I think about him, Joe Biden, okay? L'chaim, 536 is Toronto. Oh, it's 536. This is a major disconnect. There is a major disconnect in some areas. Yom Haledes, happy birthday. Amen to that. Best Shabbos advice ever, ever, ever. I don't remember what my Shabbos... Oh, my Shabbos advice to say L'chaim? Is that what you mean? I'll join with Stella. Good Shabbos, Rabbi. Thank you for being so sensitive to life and people. Thank you for being so sensitive to life and people. The Rebbe cares about people. The Rebbe is the spokesperson for what does God want from us in these times. Here is a person who will prophetically tell you what that is. Now you try and understand it in your language. Because the Rebbe said it with certain words, without any restrictions of what kind of surtuk you're going to wear, or if you're going to cover your head or not. The Rebbe told it for you to understand what's important in our times. What's important in our times is when the Rebbe is speaking to a chief rabbi, that the people of the time is what govern what the rabbis should try and figure out a way to make their lives more meaningful, more joyous, and more inclined towards celebrating their love for God and Shabbos, of course, L'chaim. I'm so happy I didn't focus on all the crazy things that happened to me today. I'm so happy because I had a chance to now take this to you. This is my best friend. Right? Kylie, do you want me to interview you? 1 minute before Shabbos. You'd rather not? I love you. I wrote a poem about Kyla. Did you see that? 16 candles. Did you see that? Every moment is a mitzvah, so we can go 18 minutes, but I'm just trying to, I just want to make sure we completed whatever we're trying to accomplish, it's done. I did want to say one thing. Probably anyone who's not male here, or even males, maybe some men, will be lighting candles. And if they are, I want it to be filled with true inner light that's not coming necessarily from your efforts. Let it already be. In history, we deserve this. I'm quoting the Rebbe, that now God should sing his song back to you and inspire you to just let this glorious mitzvah that we have of lighting Shabbos candles be something that reaches your soul and everyone around you, because the Rebbe speaks about how it, oh, and that reminds me of another thing. Oh, awesome, Sean, Mazel Tov. I have to say one more thing. If I could find it. I remember it, basically. I thought it was right at the end. Oh, and this whole beautiful thing on converts, which is beautiful. Okay, I can't actually find it, but the Rebbe says the Geula is here. All you have to do is bring it into the cheder. Bring it into your room. Oh, where is it? I want to read you the Hebrew. Oh, wait. Oh, I think I'm going to find it. Yes, here it is. Okay, I found it. Okay, sorry, I'm going a bit over time. The Geula stands already at the threshold and awaits every single Jew that he should open up his door. The Yischayiv, I don't know what that means. It's a Samach Ches Vav Veis Esa Geula. I think it means bring in, usher in, the Geula, the redemption. L'teich, I missed the part I like. HaCheder. You should bring it into the room. Remember, Cheder HaMitais. Bring it into the Cheder. Bring it into your house. It doesn't say just enjoy it outside in the park. Bring it inside where you feel like you could be yourself. That's where you bring the Geula. I mean, that's like, L'chaim, that idea, that image of bringing the redemption into your cheder, into your room, cheder hamitais, even every aspect of you, bring it into your, whatever you're fascinated by, that's where the Geula should be. If you're a ballet dancer or a professional hockey player, that's where you should find Geula in. That you should be the best person in whatever area you care about. No one should tell you what you should care about. You care about what you care about. L'chaim, and good Shabbos, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it so much.